You ever notice that your phone dies slower than your soul? You charge one every night, but the other one you neglect every week. Guys, I'm back home. I'm back in my little corner. This is my special corner. The baby has the rest of the house. The wife has the rest of the house. But I have this tiny little corner for myself. I hope you guys have been good. I have not seen you in a month, but I hope that you have continued to seek God, seek Jesus daily through, Bible, prayer, all that stuff, all that good stuff that we love to talk about here on this channel. My topic today is a very interesting one. It is the commandment that we ignore the most. So what is this big commandment that we ignore the most? Well, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. I know, pompous Christians, I know you guys will be like, oh, well, in Acts 15, when the first Christians were laying out what the Gentiles had to follow, they didn't say anything about the Sabbath. They didn't say it at all. Well, yeah, you're right. That's true. I'm not really going to talk about the command itself. I really want to get you guys to think about its purpose, really. I ain't no goody two-shoes Pharisee going to be breaking down the law, going to be bam, 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 about the law. To help you guys get a clear picture, I've got two stories. The first one is actually in Numbers 15:32-36. So this story actually tells of a man who goes out on the Sabbath and he starts collecting sticks. And the reason this is important because on the Sabbath, Israel was supposed to keep that day holy. It was supposed to be a day of rest. And so people found this man, they brought him before the elders, they brought him before Moses, and ultimately it was determined because he did not follow the law, he was stoned to death. Now, that's a morbid story. Let's go to a more cheery story. Let's go to the second story, which takes place in Mark 2:23-28. In this story, the disciples are with Jesus. They are walking through a grain field, and then they start picking the grain so that they can gather some food to eat. And along comes some Pharisees who start yelling at them saying, you must keep the Sabbath day holy. You can't be working right now. But Jesus actually defends them. And so you might be thinking, is this two different gods? Is he contradicting his earlier self? Why was it okay to stone him then, but not stone him now? And it's really cool because Jesus is actually revealing two things here. The first is that the Sabbath day is a day of rest. And he confirms this in verse 27 when he says that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. The second thing that Jesus is doing here is that he's showing that it's important how we spend that rest. The stick guy, he had an opportunity for rest, and to use that rest to spend time with God. That's what they were supposed to do. That's why it was holy, was so that they could reset from the week and think about God, spend time growing a deeper connection with God. But instead, he decided he wanted to go out and get sticks. It doesn't matter why he needed to get sticks. He thought about his own personal interests. He thought about money to sell the sticks. He thought about something else instead of spending time with God. Now, in the second story, the disciples, they also have this opportunity of rest. And here they are picking grain. They're gathering grain to eat or whatever. But they are with Jesus. They are spending time with Jesus. The reason they're gathering grain is because they're so hungry, because all their time is going to spending time with Jesus. And here we have something, and this is like the most important. Jesus said it's okay. In fact, in verse 28, he says, so the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. Jesus is literally saying, I am the Lord of the Sabbath. I get to choose what's acceptable. So what is acceptable to God on this day of rest? Is it to spend time with God or to spend time doing your own interests? But Jaxon, we don't need to follow the Sabbath. That's all Jewish law, blah, 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 blah. Do you know your best opportunity to spend time with God every week? On Sunday at church. And herein lies the true purpose of my video.
This was your plan all along.
This is the day that God built into time. He rested on the seventh day. God created the world and he rested on the seventh day. God told the Israelites to make the Sabbath holy, to spend time, to rest. And conveniently, when are most churches having services? On a Sunday, when the weekend, when there's a time of rest. God is making it very obvious that he wants us to rest and that he wants us to spend time with him during that rest. The first church, if you were to look at them in Acts, they gathered daily. They met and had fellowship daily. And so how sad is it if you can't even give God your Sundays? Instead, we work Sundays. We think we need money. We need money to provide for our families. And we don't trust God to provide for our families. We plan vacations where they overlap on Sunday and we miss church because of all these different vacations over summer and over all these holidays. So we miss church. And we can easily take those vacations during the week. Why do we sacrifice God's time and not sacrifice the company we work for? And some of you guys just don't even value fellowship. You don't want to go to church because you don't want to hang out with other people. Jesus died to build this family, a family that will grow and support each other. You can't even grow without the help of family. See, whatever you have for an excuse, really considered how would the Lord of the Sabbath view it? Would he accept it or would he be jealous? See, if you weren't under God's grace, would you be the stick guy or would you be the disciples? To make this more personal, at least for me, I gave up a job because they were getting angry at me because I wouldn't take call-ins on Sundays. Because I go into church on Sunday morning and I spend the evening with the youth group on Sundays. And so they were getting angry with me, so I left that job. Now last year, Chauncey and I, we had a baby, which is an expensive endeavor. If you've ever had a baby, if you are planning on having a baby, make sure your finances are in check. But what also made it harder was he had complications. We had to keep going to the doctors over and over and over. He was born early, so then he had to get life flighted to another hospital where they could take care of him, and he ended up staying there for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So because of all this, we accumulated $10,000 in debt with medical bills, all because of our amazingly perfect, beautiful son. And on top of that, there was still $25,000 for school. So I could no longer have my own business doing electrical stuff because, I couldn't get paid on the regular to take care of us. It would be a month before I got a big check or whatever. And so I needed a day-to-day income. So I had to look for a job, and it was really hard. I had so many opportunities where jobs I could get really good money that would help a lot, but they would require me to work on Sundays. And I kept having jobs that were I would go in for interviews and they'd ask me if I could work Sundays or if Sundays were optional. And I told them straight up, no. I rejected so many offers because I was not willing to give up that Sunday. I was not willing to give up my time with God. I valued my time with God those Sundays. And because I valued that time, God eventually blessed me and he helped me find a really good job where I don't have to work Sundays. So the point I'm trying to make is value that time with God. Give him Sundays again. If you want to value that time, if you want to show that that time is important to you, that you have that time with God, then quit your job. God will take care of you. God took care of Chauncey and I during this time, and we're almost debt free. If you want to take a lot of vacations, take those vacations on company time, not the Lord's time. If you just don't want to go to church, you need to reevaluate your relationship with him. You need to consider, are you walking with him or are you walking against him? My last thought is, God did not give you the Sabbath to take time away from you. God gave you the Sabbath to give you yourself back. I hope you guys all have a great week. I hope also that you continue to seek God every day. I'll see you next time.